may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Guys, the video from this morning, y'all absolutely killed. Thank y'all so much for that support. Thank y'all so much for going down there, leaving those likes, leaving comments. And I want to remind y'all, for the live streams going forward, we are changing up the format just a little bit, where we are going to actually, for the first 5 to 10 minutes, completely ignore any donation questions. They will still be there and we'll get to them after our period is over. But for the first 5 to 10 minutes, we are only going to be answering general chat questions, because I know not everyone's able to donate, and I always get to general chat questions, but generally it's near the end, and I know that's kind of just not possible for y'all to stay that long because it's being ended at like 1 a.m. every single night. So we're also, instead of just answering general chat questions at the end, we are going to do it at the very beginning as well. So if you want your question answered, guys, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You have the little bell next to the subscribe button on. That way you'll be notified when we go live. You can join right away. You can ask your question, and I'll try my very best to get to you with an answer. Okay, but that's it for all the announcements. Let's just get into this video and let's talk about 5 running backs that I actually have as candidates that I want to go out and trade for going into week 7. And the first guy is James Conner. Now, I know with James Conner, I actually made a video way back, I would say maybe in week 3, saying that James Conner was a sell high for me. And honestly, I think just looking back on it, I was just wrong. I was buying into the narrative that James Conner can't stay healthy. And at this point, when we have seen so many running back injuries around the NFL, James Conner is still left standing. I think I just have to admit it, that maybe just we are overvaluing the quote-unquote injury proneness of a running back like James Conner. And we just need to kind of just say we're not going to be able to predict that with James Conner, and just look at his overall usage that he's seeing in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And James Conner currently is a bell cow running back. He has been a bell cow running back every game that he has been healthy this year so far in Pittsburgh. And on top of that, I know we see a ton of running backs around the league getting the carries and targets, but what is great about James Conner is he is playing on an offense that is going to put up a significant amount of points. And the reason I think that we can go and buy James Conner at a value that's not necessarily going to be true with the production that he's going to provide for us going forward is 2 things. One, we've actually seen Chase Claypool get some goal line usage in terms of rushing the ball in for 2 rushing touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. I know it's very exciting. I know Claypool looks like an emerging talent, but still, this is not something that we can project going forward. If I had to put maybe an over-under on how many rushing touchdowns we are going to see from Chase Claypool, it'd be sitting at like 1 for the rest of the season. Just not something that we can really expect to happen. I think that we are going to end up seeing more of that usage going to James Conner. James Conner has showed us in the past that he can be that elite level fantasy running back. He has showed us so far in 2020 that he's getting that kind of usage. It does not matter how many running backs that they bring in behind him. James Conner is still the man when he is healthy. And on top of this, I think that people are just have that sour taste left in their mouth from week 1 when we were all excited about playing James Conner. He left the game with a foot injury. We saw Benny Snell go in and just look way better than James Conner. So I think that we have to just kind of ignore that. We have to ignore what happened. We have to accept the fact that every single time James Conner has been in the game, James Conner has gotten a full workload, and that's going to be a lot more predictive of fantasy production going forward rather than just whatever narrative we want to spin for ourselves. So with James Conner, I honestly have him as a low-end running back 1. If you could go trade a Kenyon Drake for James Conner after Kenyon Drake's massive blow-up performance against the Dallas Cowboys, that's something that I would love to do. And based on the live streams that we've had over the past few nights where people have been asking me questions about James Conner, it honestly sounds like that may be possible. Now, our next running back is someone that's been consistently disappointing for us so far in 2020, but I'm going to double down saying that if I don't already have him on my roster, I want to go out there and get him, and this is Antonio Gibson. Now, I know it's very concerning seeing that J.D. McKissic is getting the targets out of this backfield for this Washington football team, but when we are looking at Antonio Gibson, we have to understand a multitude of things. One, Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver coming into the NFL. We know that it's going to take him some time to really get his skills developed as a running back and really going to be able to handle that workload. Two, we have to look at his size to try to determine if he would be able to handle 25 touches a game. And honestly, guys, Antonio Gibson is a massive, massive running back. I don't think that we have to be worried about that whatsoever. And we have to look at his pass catching ability. And guys, like I said earlier, Antonio Gibson was a former wide receiver. I think once he learns how to run these routes out of the backfield, it is going to be a little bit different than his general wideout position that he saw at Memphis. Still, I think that he's going to clearly have the potential. I could see Antonio Gibson being very similar to what we saw from David Johnson way back in his rookie year in Arizona back in 2015, where David Johnson was just a highly athletic player, someone that we were very excited about his pass catching ability combined with his size. But it was not until the very end of the season where we were able to see David Johnson just completely take over and win fantasy football leagues. I think that we could be seeing that right now with Antonio Gibson, where he's been getting the usage with running the ball. He's just not necessarily seeing the amount of targets that we would want for him to have that high floor and ceiling combination. But I would be very surprised if Antonio Gibson does not start running routes out of the backfield instead of J.D. McKissic. I would say week 10. So guys, with Antonio Gibson, based on the upside that he has, with his athleticism that rivals Saquon Barkley, with his size, with his pass catching ability, I'm going out and I'm confidently saying that Antonio Gibson has the upside to be a running back 1. Currently, I think that he has the floor to be a high-end running back 3. On top of this, he's playing Dallas this week. We know that Dallas has been the worst defense in terms of just allowing their opponents to decimate them with the run game. I've said this so many times, but we'll say it again. In week 4, the Dallas Cowboys led over 300 rushing yards from the Cleveland Browns. In week 5, they allowed Devontae Freeman to be a mid running back 2. In week 6, they just allowed Kenyon Drake to have his first massive blow-up game this season. I think that this is the week to go out and purchase Antonio Gibson at a discount because people have been disappointed with him so far. Now, our next running back is not going to come out that much of a discount, but still, I think there's a small buy window open with him, and I'm trying to take advantage, and this is Ezekiel Elliott. Now, there are a ton of people kind of worried about Zeke with his fumbles, worried about more so the Dallas Cowboys offense, but I am here to say, guys, I am going to consistently be saying this all week. I am trying to buy as many pieces of this Dallas Cowboys offense as I possibly can in the form of Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb, because we understand with Zeke, we do not have to be worried about the fumbles being an issue going forward. We've never seen this problem throughout his entire NFL career. I think that it was mainly just randomness that we saw in week 6. We understand that happens all the time in a sport that's such a small sample, like, just the NFL. So when we're projecting this offense going forward, we should be able to expect to have them see just more sustained drives that aren't lost due to turnovers. And when those sustained drives happen, we're going to see more trips to the red zone. We're going to see more touchdowns scored. And that's going to drastically increase the ceiling for all of these Dallas Cowboys players. Now, I know some people are asking me what to do with Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, what do I do with Zeke? Andy Dalton looks horrible. And I'm just saying, guys, please, we should not be valuing him as anything less than the running back 3 in fantasy. If you want to make the argument where you have Alvin Kamara and Derrick Henry ahead of him, I'm completely fine with that. But as of now, Ezekiel Elliott is still a top 5 running back going forward. Please do not sell him low coming off of this performance. Now, our next running back actually just suffered a serious injury, and this was Miles Sanders. And with Miles Sanders, I just want to be very brief on him. I think that he is specifically going to be a target of ours in a league where we are possibly 6-0, 5-1, possibly even 4-2, where it looks like we are going to make the fantasy football playoffs, and we want to be optimizing our roster for then. And when we are looking at Miles Sanders, what I'm actually very excited about is not only we saw him confirm what we thought he was going to be in a 3-down bell cow running back coming into the season, but on top of that, we know that this Philadelphia Eagles offense should be a lot better by the time Miles Sanders comes back into the lineup. They'll have Jalen Reagor, they'll have Deshaun Jackson, they'll have Dallas Goedert, and I think they'll be able to much more effectively move the ball down the field, and that's going to allow for way more red zone trips. It's going to allow for way more touches at the goal line for a running back like Miles Sanders. We love the size, athleticism, pass catching ability. We want to go out and take the discount at this running back on teams where we can afford it. But obviously, if you're 1-5, 2-4, even 3-3, and you need some wins now, you cannot afford going out and buying Miles Sanders. Now, our last running back is someone that I hated coming into the year. I still hate the talent, but we cannot ignore the opportunity, and this is David Montgomery. So with David Montgomery, I understand. I mean, I was the guy just leading this bandwagon coming into the NFL draft in 2019. This is a running back that has no explosion. He has no long playability just because he is so slow. It's honestly kind of sad watching him out there. I know he kind of looks good making defenders miss in the box. He can break some tackles. Still, generally, that does not translate to fantasy production for these running backs. What does translate to fantasy production is usage at the goal line as well as targets out of the backfield. And that is both what David Montgomery is seeing now that Tariq Cohen's out of this offense. I know just a running back that we are not excited about, but still the opportunity is there. So despite the talent being horrible, I think that he's going to be able to provide you a running back 2 floor each and every week. And going through the bye weeks, that is going to be very valuable. And people have kind of come on to the fact now that David Montgomery is not a good real life NFL running back. But at the end of the day, when we are trying to evaluate these players from a fantasy football sense, that does not necessarily matter too much for us. What we care about more is the opportunity, and David Montgomery has it. So guys, now that people are kind of coming with us saying that David Montgomery's bad, I think maybe it's the time to buy. Okay, but thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, please make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. And yeah, that's all I got. Have a great night, guys. I hope I see you in the stream.